Well, ladies and gentlemen, the summer movie season has finally arrived. 2012 is off to an excellent start with The Avengers, a movie which most people's would never even think possible to make, especially in the way that it was. That you would take four independent movie franchises, plan them from the get-go to all eventually tie into one team-up movie, and then actually execute that plan. This is amazing that this movie actually got made in this way. This is like what you'd see people kind of post on the internet, some crazy plan of how they would do their favorite interpretation of a movie or a genre. Like I've heard people say, oh, they want to do Doom, but they want to do it as the first book in three separate parts and stuff like that. And it's normally like, yeah, right, Hollywood actually doing that. In this case, they actually did it. And it didn't suck. This movie is amazing. It's funny, it's got great action, and it's all around good. Go see this film. I cannot stress that enough. Everyone gives the solid performances that you'd expect, especially all the returning cast members. Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Chris Hemsworth, he is Thor. He's the same Thor we saw from the previous film. Like, the performances haven't changed. You so feel like this is a direct sequel to all of these movies. More so with Thor than anything else, because we have Loki as the villain. That really makes it feel more of a sequel to Thor, which is kind of a setback only in that the movie puts Thor a little bit further to the back of everyone than Captain America, Iron Man, and even to a great degree Mark Rufio's new The Hulk, or Bruce Banner. Which I must say, getting on that, I was one of those guys that was quite disappointed that Edward Norton was not going to be the Hulk. But after seeing this movie, Mark Ruffalo, sorry, actually I think does the best job out of anyone I've seen play the Hulk. You really get the sense from his performance that he is constantly angry at people, and he's really trying to suppress it. Edward Norton can do that, kind of get angry, but even when he's doing his angriness, he's still very rational about everything. It's more of just a little frustration. I'm going to vent a little bit. Rufio really feels like he's got a rage underneath him. I think he's got the face for it. He's got that kind of look where if he would bulk up a bit, he would really look ripped, like very heavy, really big muscles. But he does not like that. But the effect is he looks like he's got that mean face to him, and his features translate more to the Hulk than Edward Norton, who's kind of more skinny, thin, narrow. Rufio kind of has that build that if he wanted to, he could be a linebacker if he really, bulked up. But it's really his performance of he's kind of constantly moving about a bit. You can kind of tell like he clenches his fists a lot, like when he's people are kind of talking, and he even says it later on in the film, like you know what? My secret is I'm always angry, because everyone wants to know his secret why he stays so calm, and the truth is he's always angry, and you kind of get that performance across by him. Loki in this one is a little bit interesting. They've somewhat abandoned his daddy issues plot to a degree. You can kind of tell it's still motivating him to do everything, but how do I want to articulate this? He's basically now more pissed off that he has lost his kingship. You could argue that is he's really still angry that he's been rejected by his father, but he's hiding it behind this need to be a king. And so he's made a deal to become king of Earth by this alien race. I forgot their names. I saw this last night at the midnight premiere, and they mentioned it like once or twice. Sorry. And it's interesting that he's not the sole mastermind that everyone thought he was going into this. he really is working for somebody else. He's making a deal where he's going to get the Tesseract, which is a device that allows you to basically teleport anywhere. He's made this deal. They're going to give him an army. He gets to conquer Earth. They get the Tesseract and then conquer the rest of the universe. And so that's his motivation here, and he does a very effective job. They actually really bulk him up in terms of his threat level. Like in Thor, you never got the sense that he was really a guy that like could throw down with people. All of his moves are always tricks and stuff. And I suppose on the Asgardian level, he is kind of weak, but when you throw him to Earth, he is incredibly powerful. Like, he kind of knows it's kind of pointless to fight Thor. Thor will wipe the floor with him every time. So will other characters, literally. Tom Hiddleston again does a great performance. Also returning, of course, Samuel L. Jackson. As Samuel L. Jackson, we would expect nothing else of him. Stellan Skarsgård as Dr. Selvig, who he's basically mind controlled throughout the entire movie. That's not a spoiler because in the first scene you see what happens. And you kind of got that sense that he was under some sort of influence, only this is a little bit more direct. I guess whatever plot they had thought of with like Loki influencing Selvig at the end of Thor was kind of abandoned to this more direct mind control. And this is another surprising move with Hawkeye. His character, this is a spoiler because this is again the first scene or two of the movie, becomes mind controlled by Loki as well. And he's actually one of the main threats throughout the film. It's really not till the end that he has regained his self and joined up with the rest of the Avengers. But his being mind controlled, though, does allow us to really examine the Black Widow's character, because she has a real connection with Hawkeye in this film. And this really is these are the two characters that we're really now truly introduced to. We didn't have much background on Natasha Romanoff and Clinton Barton in their roles in Thor and Iron Man 2. They were just kind of there. Now we get much more of an idea of their backstories a bit, and they're really the two characters that we get to learn about. As well as a little bit of characterization on Agent Phil Coulson's a bit. Turns out he's a real big Captain America fan. He's got like vintage cards and stuff from the 40s, and goes to show, hey, Captain America was a known figure back in the day. And that leads, of course, to some comedy, which this movie is surprisingly hilarious. No, wait, I shouldn't say surprisingly hilarious. It's classic Whedon. You can tell Whedon he wrote a lot of this script. I know Zach Penn is officially listed as well as 3 other people, but just looking at this, Josh Whedon did a lot of the writing. Everyone has that really smart, quick, funny Josh Whedon style dialogue, which anyone who's watched Serenity or Firefly will pick up immediately. And it's really great. They have a lot of funny badass moments. Hawkeye not even looking at like whatever these flying machines are, and shooting it down, like not even looking at it. And it's the way they do it. You have a good Whedon has written. He knows not only the characters, but he knows the actors playing the characters and how they can pull off these things. You can tell this is a guy who really knows his stuff, both what makes sense internally for the story, as well as what makes sense with what the actors are capable of. Because not every actor can pull stuff like this off. And Whedon knows what his people can do. And I'm happy for that, because it's about time Josh Whedon got a big screen success story. People love Serenity, but unfortunately it wasn't a box office smash hit. Now Whedon has that smash hit. I don't have to wait till the numbers come out on that. This is going to be massively profitable. The way the audience was reacting last night, no doubt on that. But the movie, I should also point out, the movie's also paced well. Not only do we have those funny character moments, uh, it's not non-stop action. Like Conan, which Conan the Barbarian, the new version, not the classic version, which was great. It lets its characters build up. It doesn't immediately throw all the action at us, which is a good thing. Because it doesn't have to have a whole lot of character development, and it doesn't retread on a lot of ground when it comes to these characters, because most of them have had movies dedicated to them. The two, again, the ones that I said, the two that we get more characterization of, Hawkeye and Black Widow, and maybe a little bit of Nick Fury, are needed. But Captain America, we have been established. Some stuff gets built on him. Same thing with Thor. Thor probably has the least character development of all. I guess they're waiting on the next Thor movie to have that hashed out. But even he has some great character moments. I would say Tony is the one. Tony and Captain America are probably. Well, scratch that. 3. Tony, Captain America, and the Hulk probably have the most character development. Tony more so than everyone else, learning to work with others. He starts off he doesn't play well with others. Towards the end, he starts to get a better idea of, we have to be a team to beat this. Rufio's character, Bruce Banner there, obviously still dealing with his control issues. So there's issues there. And of course, Captain America, which they don't really address too much of him being fish out of water. And you can somewhat contribute that to being, hey, he's just coming into the world right now, there's stuff to do, so it really hasn't hit him fully, the whole strangeness of being out of time. But they do stuff like hit on it. Like, there's a lot of stuff of references that he doesn't get, and he's like, what? Yoga? Pilates? But I like, and this is where Whedon's writing comes in, they also play up, Thor was a bit of a fish out of water. So when he makes references there, when they make a reference to Thor, there's a great scene in there where they go, he's head's like a flying monkey or something like that. When referring to Loki, Thor's like, monkey, and Captain America gets all excited, going, oh, I get that reference, and the way the characters pull that out, it's hilarious to see Captain America excited that he's getting a social or a pop culture reference for once. So they do a good job of playing off that type of ideal that, you think you're out of water, you're a fish out of water, this guy's even further a fish out of water. Anything? Well, of course, there's a ton of stuff to bring up. When it comes to the end, I should explain how they connected a lot of the franchises. Everybody seems to make sense while they're there. Why they are there and why other characters are not. First off, you have Loki comes back to Earth, mind controls Selvig, so they later on, and I like how they actually gave like a good minute explaining this to kind of updating Thor, okay, this is what happened to Natalie Portman's character. It's like once Selvig got compromised, we sent her off to some research center in South America because we were afraid they would go after her next. And Thor's like, oh, I greatly appreciate that. So they spend the time to go, this is why we're not dealing with her right now. Plus, the story stuff is going on enough in the story that you don't question why Thor isn't going to check out his flame, his thing, because he's got to bring in Loki right now. They don't have, even though there's, like I said, there wasn't a ton of action, the plot was still moving forward. Stuff was happening, so that you don't question why certain other characters aren't popping up. We see a little bit of Pepper Potts, but that's really nothing more than a cameo in 2 scenes. What other characters? With Hulk, you didn't really need to explain why General Ross and others weren't involved. It was pretty much made clear by S.H.I.E.L.D. that they had been kind of protecting him and keeping the army away from him. And Ross was he was a 3-star general, so it wasn't like he's on the Joint Chiefs of Staff or anything, so you can kind of buy a little bit that Shield can shield the Hulk from Ross and kind of keep him under control. I guess especially you could argue after his last attempt at capturing him in New York, which they do bring up. But there's a good excuse to bring Banner, at least. They make the excuse that the Tesseract puts out a lot of gamma radiation, and Bruce Banner is the world's foremost expert on radiation or gamma radiation. So they bring him in not as the Hulk, but as Bruce Banner, the Doctor. The same reason they kind of bring in Iron Man. They need someone to analyze this stuff, and him and Banner and Stark kind of immediately kind of hit off, and like they kind of make their own separate scientist team. You can tell, like, I like how they don't immediately make everybody hates everyone and clashes with everybody. They kind of figure out who these characters really are, and Tony would like talking with Banner. He's a fellow scientist. He's a really smart guy. He's someone that Tony can actually relate to on an intellectual level, which is something that you can tell that Stark's character doesn't often get a chance to do. So Stark really enjoys it that he can talk all his high-tech science talk and his tech talk with someone who can understand. And I like how they realize that in the characters, that even though there's clashes and areas of friction, there's also areas where a lot of these characters would naturally get along. Obviously, they do play up Captain America and Tony butting heads, getting annoyed with each other, which is something much more relevant to the current comics. But the way they play both characters are very different. One's very much a soldier in control. The other, Stark, party guy, party boy, likes to do his own thing, laid back, very, almost the exact opposite of a soldier. In fact, many would argue he is the exact opposite. And of course, they play up Black Widow and Hawkeye being very close to each other and working well with each other. And then they have Thor there, who, again, he's a god walking around. What else is there to say with why they brought everybody in? Now you get the sense with Captain America, who's kind of literally he's the first one they introduced for the team, which is good because he's supposed to be the first Avenger. Although do we see Black Widow first? Well, actually, the first of the Avenger agents we see is Hawkeye in this movie. So there's that. Now I'm going to get into a little bit. I've been holding back on this a bit, because I wanted to hold off on the final battle scene for a bit, because there might be some spoilers. I'm trying to keep this a spoiler-free review, for obvious reasons. I think this is a film that you want to go and see without stuff being spoiled, but before we get into the battle, I'm going to have a... Now, this isn't a spoiler, the way I'm going to put this, but this is Joss Whedon, and one of the things a lot of people go with Joss Whedon is he's willing to kill off a character. I will not name which character dies, but it's a wash moment. And by that I mean, if those of you that saw Serenity, there was one of the beloved characters that died, and I like to call it the wash moment, where a character you weren't expecting to die, all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, he's dead, type of a moment. Now, unlike a lot of people that criticize Whedon for killing Wash-Off, even though the sense was anybody could die at any moment, that was for true purposes. That this does serve a motivational point for the team. So there is one of the major characters do not make it through this. That's all I'll say. And I think that goes with the idea. One, the movie is in there. Not everyone can make it. Whedon knows this. That was just something I give a lot of credit to the guy for. He knows that killing a character adds tension for the audience, and killing a character people like, because it means, maybe he's going to kill more than one. Maybe not everyone's going to make it through this. It gives emotional impact. Unlike producing a character that you know is going to die because they're trying to make you hate the character, which is what horror movies do way too often. So I give a big credit to Whedon for doing this. It was probably a risky move, and I guarantee you, he had to fight for this in the studios or against the studio. But as for the final battle, there's a few interesting things. One of the things I said is a reason why certain characters are not there. And of course, the big one you immediately think of is, why isn't War Machine? Now, I think in reality, the reason War Machine isn't in there because they thought they had too many characters. They already have a character that's like him with this team. They don't need a bunch of different Iron Man knockoffs. Or same reason why you don't bring in the Abomination and say he's working with us now. You already have a Hulk. You want a group of diverse people. The two closest on the team are Black Widow and Hawkeye, and they at least have different styles enough where one guy has a bow, one is a femme fatale. And the way they work in why not having War Machine there is this film, at least when the action really picks up, like I said before, there was a reason they brought in most of these guys. Thor kind of shows up on his own accord. Apparently, the Asgardians can still send people across space. It just takes a lot of dark energy, and they don't have a ton of it, so they can't. They have to do it really sparingly. But they do send Thor's there to capture Loki, bring him back to justice, and capture the Tesseract. But so when he's there, you get the sense that Stark is there for more of the scientific. Same thing with the Banner. You've got your two standard SHIELD agents. Well, not standard, but and then of course Captain America because they figure they can use him. And at first, you get the sense this takes place over the course of a couple days. But really, they go from having, and this isn't a spoiler because they had this in the trailer, Loki being captured, to his attack takes place over the course of a couple hours. So there's a reason, pretty much as soon as Loki escapes, he goes and he opens his portal to let his army attack New York. So if War Machine is on the West Coast, or he's in, Hawaii at a military base or some other military facility around the world, even if as soon as he heard, hey, that guy Loki escaped, you might be needed in New York. If you left immediately, he still wouldn't arrive till after this whole battle was over. So they don't address that directly why that character isn't there, but it's a reason why you can see then why it would make sense unless War Machine was already present, why he wouldn't be in the final battle. Although it would have been fun. I guarantee you there was probably some sort of line somewhere that they probably cut out. I guarantee this is going to be a movie where there was a lot of stuff, little references cut out because the references were cutting into pacing. Though I must say, with the attack, you kind of wonder what the hell Fury was doing. And I wonder what Whedon was doing with this too. In that SHIELD, this kind of lets the Avengers go before being fully. Well, there's a battle on the hover carrier, and the hover carrier does kind of survive. It's wounded, but it still has aircraft. In the final battle, they don't. Minor spoiler is that the council that oversees SHIELD wants to launch a nuclear strike on New York and kind of stop the invasion now. But obviously, Nick Fury wants to let his team do it. But so they kind of override and contact one of the pilots directly to say, you have to launch right now and fire your nuke on the city. And it shows that even after this battle, there's still plenty of aircraft on board the flying aircraft carrier. You really have to wonder, why did Fury not launch his team? As soon as the Avengers, he should have said, the Avengers are leaving, they're motivated now, scramble all the jets we have and help them. He's got an entire air wing still on this carrier. They could have been really, really helpful in that battle. Especially, well, not especially, but it would have also helped, I think, with the scale. There's one thing you kind of have to feel with that battle at the end, was that it did feel like the only people fighting were the Avengers team. And yeah, maybe that's the point, but they do kind of introduce Captain America showing up and giving tactical instructions to police officers. And there's a bit of a humorous exchange there, especially considering, his outfit. But he kind of lays out this whole battle plan for these officers to kind of prepare, and then we never see them before. We never see, like, really when the army shows up. There's, like, apparently a few National Guard units make up and open fire on some of them, but we really don't see them ever fighting. And you kind of felt this to make the scale bigger. Maybe having a bunch of those jets joining in with the Avengers fighting would have added, like, this is a bigger battle, a bigger war. I mean, maybe landing on there and launching. If Fury had sent whatever forces you could muster into the city, a few squads of shield agents, a couple shots of them fighting as well, it would have, I think, added a sense of scale to that battle. I have a feeling those scenes existed, but they cut them down because they didn't want to do a Dark of the Moon, overly long, extended battle in a major city. It's probably what happened, and I'm guessing there was probably a couple scenes that were supposed to be with those officers and the National Guard kind of fighting the aliens, but they decided to cut them for pacing, which is understandable, especially considering. Well, I'll get into this in a little bit. I don't think there's anything else I can really add. Overall, I think you're getting my sense here. This is a great film. I enjoyed the hell of it. I hope they get a direct sequel for the Avengers. However, they do an interesting. I don't know what they're trying to tie in with this, because after the whole battle, there is the Avengers. Who are these Avengers? These Avenger people. Okay. One, you have Tony Stark. Everyone knows who Tony Stark is. The other two are just normal humans who just trained incredibly, to an incredible level, and are just really good assassins. Not, amazing there. You have Captain America, who it's established he is a known historical figure at the very least. So we have another person who should be publicly known, or at least if not immediately recognized, easily explained. They go, oh, this is the Captain America from World War II. Like I said, because they established in the Captain America movie that he was for most of the war, he was a propaganda icon. He's well known. He has a lot of, there's a lot of vintage stuff that apparently there's collectors of his memorabilia. You have the Hulk, which again is something that's, okay, he's a little bit more of like the what? But he's somewhat known in that there was an incident in Harlem or was it Queens or Harlem? Regardless, his existence is known. The only one that's really introduced new for the public would be Thor, which, okay, maybe the fact that there is an actual god of thunder, he just happens to be an alien that looks like humans, might be shocking to the public, but I don't see why there would be this kind of great debate. You've got like 6 or 7 individuals who saved New York, and they're trying to bring up this questioning of the Avengers. I don't know, maybe they were trying to go for, if they do a sequel, they'll try to do a Civil War plotline. I don't know if that would really work. I think Civil War works because it was on a larger scale with, every superhero, not Marvel movie universe, which only has a handful of people, not really enough to go, we have to control these. No, it's about 6 or 7 individuals, 2 of which are just normal people that are just highly, highly trained. And the other one just happens to have equipment that that he's already let the U.S. military use, in War Machine. I don't know, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, that little ending. But I can ignore that. What else was what I was going to say with set up for a sequel? Yeah, I missed the post-credits scene. This movie was at 2.5 hours long, and after the first half hour, I had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to get out of my seat because I was enjoying the film that much. So when those credits hit, I walked very funnily, or not funnily, but funnily, as in I looked really weird walking because I've had to go for 2 straight hours. I was holding it. Thank God everyone was staying for the post-credit scene, because it meant I got into the bathroom. I was the first one in. Oh, well, I felt bad that I missed that scene, unfortunately. Uh, but if the movie was any longer, I think I might have burst. Which that tells you a bit of the quality of the movie. It's a movie that I was willing to go through that much discomfort because I didn't want to miss a second. From what I have been told, the end scene basically introduces Thanos, one of the major villains of the Marvel Universe, and basically the person who Loki was actually working for, or made a deal with to get his army. Interesting. I haven't seen the scene itself. I will, of course, as soon as I can find one on YouTube that isn't immediately taken down, I'll take a look at it. The movie also ended. I also like how they ended it in a way that it wasn't too demanding on what happens next for each of the individual characters. You got a sense if something big happens, they'll address it. They can come back together. It's easy to see. They can basically write it the same way how they got these guys get together this time. But it's open now, really, for everyone to do their own movie. You get the sense when Thor 2 is made, they have Loki in custody. I guess they don't have to explain how he was caught. That's if they even decide to use Loki as the main villain in Thor 2, and not somebody else. Iron Man, we got a little bit of seeing him and Pepper Potts together as a couple, which wasn't that different from when they were in a business relationship. Again, I mentioned this earlier with Captain America. This is really kind of the first time he's been out, and he was mostly on the SHIELD hover carrier or New York under siege, so he hadn't have a real sense of getting into the world. But they did lay in a little bit of him having a flashback to the war, maybe having some post-traumatic stress. So it's still open enough with him to do something. The Hulk, they let Bruce Banner kind of go at the end to go do his own thing. Though they said they're not going to make another Hulk movie. However, I could easily see him, and I hope they bring Mark Ruffalo back in one of the other Marvel movies, whether it's the so-called Nick Fury movie that they're going to make, which is basically, I'm going to guess, could be a SHIELD movie. Which, who knows, that we might see Hawkeye and Black Widow in that one as well. I hope they do, because they really did a good job with Black Widow, showing how she gets information and really tricking people. Because there's a scene in here where she even tricks the audience, and the audience doesn't even realize she's getting information out of somebody. That's hard to pull off, and they do it in this movie. But I hope Mark Ruffalo winds up in one of the other movies. You can easily see him, at the very least, make a cameo or something in one of the other movies, if not have a scene. I mean, I could see him being in Asgard, it's one of the few places he can go, and if he transforms into Hulk, he's not necessarily going to kill anybody, even if he goes all crazy. He does fight with Thor a bit. He can beat guys up, but you get the sense enough Asgardians could just kind of dogpile him and kind of hold him down. So maybe you can see him in one of those movies. You can easily see him being in Iron Man, because Tony basically offered him a job. Tony said, you should check out Stark Tower. I got 10 towers of research. I can offer a stress-free environment. He was trying to recruit Bruce Banner there for Stark Industries. And you could easily work Banner into a Captain America movie. If he starts having Captain America, maybe they go, oh, he's having some sort of issues or mutation or something with the super soldier serum. Hey, who's one of the foremost experts, the person that came closest to recreating it? Bruce Banner. That is it. I guess that's it for now. We've been doing this for over a half hour. This is one of my longest reviews. I apologize for that. And just to think, there's a lot of stuff I didn't even talk about. Go see this movie. The summer season has just begun. It's off to a great start. I forget which of the big ones coming out next. Next week, Dark Shadows comes out. I'm not sure if I'm going to see that one or not. I'll probably see Battleship, even though I don't think it's going to be that good of a movie. So I might go to see it just to bash it. Let's see, Chernobyl Diaries and Men in Black 3 the following week. I'll probably wind up seeing one of those. Just a question of which one. So, hey, this is my busy time of the year. Signing off for now, guys. Avengers, assemble!